Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It doesn't matter the hour in which you are watching this video. Welcome to a new tutorial about how to use this time Git and GitHub in our computers focused to generate the control version of our projects and in the future to deploy our site using GitHub, right? Before to start our tutorial, it's important that you check previously the documents about how to install Git. Here you will have the links anyway in the description. I will leave the tutorials here, the guides to install Git in different operative systems, and basically the instructions that you have to follow here to install Git in your computer. Also remember that you have to create an account in GitHub. This is the service that we will use to store our projects in the cloud. Yes, don't forget to create an account on GitHub before to continue here. Also remember that before to initialize the repository, it's important that you configure it in the Git bash that we will work in a few moments, that we will open in a few moments. Especially these two commands, the config global username, that is basically the name that you've created in GitHub, and the email, that is basically the email that you've used in GitHub, right? This is so important because with that we will ensure that that we want to connect GitHub with Git. So it's so important to follow these steps. Don't forget to follow these steps to do this process, right? Once that you have your Git bash with the settings, it's important that we can start to do this repository, right? First of all, if you remember in Visual Studio Code, we worked our project in a folder. Here you will see the importance of this folder. So remember that we have to search the project in our computer or in the device in which we have. In my case, for example, I have here, this is my folder, and here I'm gonna select the folder, and if you see here I have all my files. It's important that you remember that all the files included images, basically the HTML files, the CSS files has to be inside of the folder, because with that we can upload all the changes in the repository and will be easier to access there, right? Don't forget that. So if you remember, this is the page. If you want to test it, you can test it. Remember opening live server. If you remember here, this is the website that you want to deploy. Basically, I'm gonna try to deploy doing in this case, right? So if you see here, look at here, we have our site in general terms, right? This is the idea. This is the site that I want to save in GitHub, right? But remember that all the files has to be inside of the folder that you've created and you are working in Visual Studio. This is the folder that we will use to generate the repository. Before to create the repository, we have to go to GitHub. For that reason, it's important that you go to GitHub and log in GitHub using the username and the password that you've created using the email that you've created before. So in my case, for example, I have my account, and if you see here, I have a lot of repositories here, but if it's your first time accessing, this is the vision. This is the visually the screen that you will see, right? So in my case, for example, I'm gonna go here to my profile, and here you will find different options: your profile, your repositories, your copilot, right? The idea is that we can go here, your repositories. Of course, in my case, I already have different repositories, if you see here. But the idea is that we can create one new. For that reason, if you want to create a new repository, you have to click here in new, right? We're gonna click in new, and here you can have these options: create a new repository. A repository contains all project files, including the revision history. Already have a great repository elsewhere, import a repository. In our case, we don't have a repository in our computer, but we're gonna create the repository here. So in that case, here we have my founder name. I'm gonna leave like this, and here we're gonna put the name. For example, in my case, I'm gonna put programming. No, I'm gonna put something like this: alidev programming page, for example. This is the name. Of course, you can put a different name. You can't put the same name because already exists. I will create the repository. You can put something different, the name that you want. But keep into account that the name has to identify your repository. Here, if you want a description, so here we can put a description in general terms. For example, here I'm gonna put program page that illustrate that has a programming. You can put problem database with the solutions in flowchart mode. We want to expand to create a community and contributions. Okay, so the idea is that we can put in public without any one person can access to the code. Just in case that you don't want that someone else can watch your code, you can put in private. But keep into account that if you put in private, it's important that you can show me and you can give me the permission to access to your repository. For that reason, my preference is that can be public, but if you want to put in private, don't forget to share with me the repository. Initialize the repository with README file. At the moment we won't do. Add git ignore and choose a license no. So here, once that we have these adjustments, we're gonna click in create repository, right? And here we have our repository, right? Basically here we're gonna leave this part until here because now is the time to upload the files to this repository in GitHub using Git. Okay, so what are we gonna do now, guys? Once that we have created our repository in GitHub here, we're gonna go to the system and we will search the Git bash. Okay, the Git bash. In the Git bash, guys, is this application. If you see here, we've used in the past, because look at that here when we've created, we've initialized our Git, we've used these instructions in the Git bash. Okay, but we already have this, so for that reason we will ignore that because we're gonna do that only one time. For that reason, we will continue here. Now, what are we gonna do? In Git bash, we have to arrive until this folder in the Git bash. So for that reason, we have to go here, or I don't know, I think that we can do in an easier way. We're gonna go to the Explorer. This is a process for Windows, you know. So for Mac, maybe can be similar, but anyway, I will leave you a tutorial about GitHub and Git in Mac. So what are we gonna do? I'm gonna locate the file. I think that is here, right? This is. I'm gonna click here. I don't know. So I think I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna init here. So once that I access to the folder, I'm gonna right click. And if you see here, you have Open Git here or Open Git bash here. In this case, I'm gonna click, remember, right click with the mouse and we will choose Open Git bash here. Okay, and here we have document, my pressure starting. And we will put here the following instruction, guys, to start our repository in our computer. Git init. And here we are creating our repository. We're gonna click in enter, initialize empty Git repository, here we've created our repository. Now, if we want to check the files that we've created that are updated or are not updated in our repository, we have to use the command git status. Okay, and here, if you see here on branch master, at moment we won't touch more about branches because only we're gonna work in our own branch. For that reason, the master. No commits yet. That means that we have to do these updates. And here we have untracked files. Basically, is we need to add these files to our repository. If they are in red, that means that we have to add. Okay, and if you hear the instruction, nothing added to commit, but untracked files present. That means that we have files, but unfortunately, the files are not added to the repository. For that reason, we're gonna add. Of course, you can do one by one. For example, with the instruction git add, and here you can put the file. For example, it can be contribute.html. This is if you want to add only one file. But of course, if you have a lot of files or a lot of folders, it's better to add all the files. Okay? If you want to add all the files, you have to use the command git add. But instead to put the name of the files, you can put here line and with a caps. Okay, git add all, right? And we've added all, right? Now it's time to do the commit. The commit is to generate the version, of our work at this moment, right? And this is the version that we will upload to GitHub. So for that reason, we're gonna do the commit. How? We're gonna put here git, without caps, git commit, and here we're gonna put m, line m. Basically, it's because we're gonna put a message. Basically, what is the change or the commit that we've done in this session. For that reason, between quotes, we're gonna put the message. For example, doing a brief description. For example, first version of the programming page. Okay, and here we can put with home, contribute, and login sections. For example, this is a message that will be helpful in the future to know what do you do in this version specific, in the kind of changes that you do. Okay, so after I'm gonna click, once that I have the commit, I'm gonna enter. And here, if you see here, we've created the commit. Look at master, no commit, we've created here unique number of commit. This is useful in GitHub if you want to change, if you want to check the versions, if you want to go back to a specific change, keep into account this number. Here we have 25 changes, 457 insertions. Also here we have some changes here. Look at here we've added, right? At the moment we already have, if we go to Git status again, Git status, we will see that here we have on branch master, nothing to commit, working quickly. That means that we already have our changes saved. Okay, but if you want to see in GitHub, this is not enough. You need to create the remote repository. For that reason, it was important that you've created the repository here. Why? Because this is the repository that we will call in a remote way to upload our commits or changes to GitHub, right? So for that reason, we're gonna use this line. If you see here, we have, look at, here we have some instructions here. Look at git init, git add readme. I won't do git commit, the first comment as I told you, git branch, basically will be the same. Git remote add. We're gonna use this line, git remote add origin. Yes, git remote is we are calling that we're gonna create a remote repository. Yes, add is that we're gonna add. And origin, this name is just a default name, but my suggestion is if you can change this name, for example, I don't know, my first project or another name. Why? Because with that you can create a lot of remote repositories in your computer. So in this case, I'm gonna copy this line, and I'm gonna go to the bash and I'm gonna paste here, Control V, or right click and paste. And here we have git. No, sorry, I'm gonna do it again. Paste. And here we're gonna put here again, and I'm gonna delete this part from here. Wait, I'm gonna go here up, and I'm gonna erase from here. And here we have the remote add. Here I'm gonna modify, and instead I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna put programming page. You can put the name that you want. Programming page. Okay, git remote, add the name of the repository that you want, and the address of this specific repository in GitHub. Once that we have, we're gonna press enter, and here we have our repository created. If we want to check if we've created successfully the repository, we have to type git remote, and if you see, will appear our remote repository. At the moment are connected, right? So finally, we have the repository created in Git, the remote in Git 2. Now it's time to upload the changes to our GitHub. How? Using the command git push the name of our repository, programming page, and the branch. In our case, the branch is master, right? Of course, if you want to create another branch, you can do it, but at the moment we're gonna work with only one, master. Okay, we're gonna enter. We're gonna wait a few seconds. If you see here, git push, and once that you done, will appear this message: new branch, master to master, writing objects 100%. That means that we have done our repository. Of course, if it's your first time, we'll request you the password or a key. Okay, just in case that happened, that we can check what is the issue there. You have to follow the instructions in this case. Okay, let's see how does it look, our repository. We're gonna refresh in GitHub, and if you see here, we have our complete files in GitHub. Look at all the files that you've done in GitHub. Okay, it's very important that if you've changed it, if you've done changes to your code and you want to upload to the repository, it's important that you do this process for each time that you've done changes, right? It's important that you do all the time, just in case that you've changed things, right? This is so important. And basically with that, here we have our repository. Just an advice, a hack that I'm gonna give you today is, for example, if you want to see on live, if you want to change from the web directly the code, you can press dot, the dot, and automatically the dot key, and you will find here that will be opened the editor, the developer editor. This is just a hack. If you want to see, for example, the code and you want to edit or you want to run, you have to open a code space, right? For example, in my case, I'm going to create a code space or command palette. No, sorry, here. We have to go here. I'm gonna Go here, Explorador, control the código. Okay, we have to go here. I'm gonna open in any place, right click, command palette, and I'm gonna open here, code space, code space, code space. And here we're gonna create a code space that is similar to the environment that we have in Visual Studio Code. In my case, I'm gonna put something like create new code space. Right here, I'm gonna create a code space here, the branch. I'm gonna create two cores. This is a virtual machine. We'll simulate a computer, a complete computer. I'm gonna go here again. And here, if you see, you can run your code directly from the cloud. And if you want to do changes here, you can do it here, right? Okay, we're gonna wait a few seconds. If you see here, you can edit the code if you want. Nothing special, right? You can install the extensions as we've seen during the classes, right? And you see here, install, instalar, the live server to see, right? Here will appear the bash to do the changes, just in case that you want. I'm gonna close here. I'm gonna go to Explorer here, and let's suppose that I want to run my project as always, you know. Okay. For example, here we can see our project in the cloud, right? Look at, can you see? You can see properly, and you can run and you can do the changes. Of course, this is not projected in the cloud. The next part, that is to deploy, the deployment we're gonna do using GitHub, but in the next tutorial, right? Remember that if you have questions, you can let me know. And okay, guys, I hope that this session can be clear. Don't forget to check the different concepts that we've seen. Thank you so much, and see you in the next video.